r/askreddit. Women of Reddit, what do you think would be the worst part of being a man? Not receiving emotional support. Edit. I'm sorry you guys are all dealing with this. It sucks. For the ladies also dealing with this, I'm sorry it sucks. Everyone, don't be afraid to reach out for support. If someone slaps you down for it, they are not the right person to be around. If all else fails, see a therapist. You go to doctors to take care of your body. Go take care of your mind too. You don't have to be depressed or have a mental health issue. Sometimes it's nice to just speak to someone without judgment, and no one has to know about the visits but you. Much love. Every time I've taken off the mask of strength, I have been punished for it. Feels bad. There are some of us trying to change this ourselves. I work and live in a male-dominated, aggressive industry where being tough is a big deal. A few years ago there were a few guys in our group that weren't okay. So we all started talking about our feelings. It was weird at first, but people really took to it because we suddenly felt supported and supportive. It's normal for our group to admit when we are sad, lonely, happy, whatever. We talk, listen and offer advice without judgment. I'm away a lot and will even let people know when I miss them. And I can tell you, outsiders see us as strong, shit together type men. Because we now are allowed to ask for help and care for each other, our problems are easier to solve. It's a small start, but it's a start. I hope the younger guys in the group pick it up and run with it. Edit. Good point, well raised. My group isn't my workmates. But we all work similar hard fields. Def the hardest part of my male experience. Having to build up the courage to ask a girl out on a date. I got asked out by some guys I wasn't attracted to at first glance, but I still went because I know how much it takes to approach a stranger. I am a woman. I asked a guy out. A guy I barely knew. It was scary. People know when you're horny in public. Nah. It's so small that nobody would see it anyway. Having an erection equals being horny. Sometimes you'll get random boners even if you aren't horny at all. But keep in mind that horny is different for men and women. Women have to work up to it, so to be horny would mean something tangibly had to happen. For men, it could literally be nothing. You could see a guy in public with a chub, and it's just his body doing a weapon check. It's crazy that none of the answers I see from women are nobody gives a shit about you, because that's really the hardest part. Almost every organization that helps struggling people puts men last. When I was homeless it was really tough to get any sort of help if there was a woman there as well. Edit. This got a lot of attention. The one thing I can say that I'm absolutely positive about is that every single homeless person I had known had one thing in common, and treated childhood trauma. We need to do better for our boys and girls without great home lives. You can even apply that to the dating side of things too. No matter how many times you're rejected after asking women out, all the advice a man gets is toughen up and try again. Years and years of rejection and then people say she settled for you. Thanks for that, humanity. Guys apparently get shot down more often since they typically ask the girl out or to dance more often from what I have seen. Yay. It's rough. I can increase my attractiveness if I need a confidence boost by applying some light makeup and wearing flattering clothes. It doesn't seem that easy for dudes. As women though, you all get compliments on your looks pretty regularly. We don't get that. My wife will tell me I look good, but a compliment from someone else is different. She gets complimented and hit on all the time. Recently a couple of very attractive younger ladies told me I look like Jason Momoa. I very much don't and laughed it off. But it was nice to get that. Men cannot defend themselves from women without it exploding in their faces. It's ridiculous. You have a right to defend yourself. Gender nor age should be a factor on your well-being. There was a YouTube video a while back of a girl who slapped a guy multiple times. She would slap him, laugh, and walk around the room for a bit. Then she'd come back and slap him again. This happened like 8-9 times. Each time the guy yelled at her to stop and leave him alone. On the 9th time, he slapped her back after getting slapped. 3-4 bystanders at this party all jumped on him, telling him you don't hit women. All of those bystanders stood there while he was getting hit. I'm a woman and I hate it when someone says guys can't hit girls. Why not just people don't hit people? And if someone, doesn't matter the gender, hits someone else, defend yourself. You can't be near parks or schools without someone thinking you might be pedophile. If you walk anywhere alone after dark, women are scared of you thinking you might be sexual predator. Generally people being scared and thinking the worst while you might actually be the nicest guy who would help anyone and couldn't hurt a fly. Not allowed to talk to or like children. I like children. I think they're cute and at least slightly amusing. I think this idea may be most endemic to white Americans, as when at, mostly Persian Indian, mosque, children more or less wander around freely and everyone takes turns supervising and parenting as needed. Height. If you're a short woman you get called cute, and if you're tall a model. So win-win. I've seen so many cases where there would be a smart handsome looking guy that would be below 5'11", 180 cm, get rejected for an average looking stupid guy that's 6 ft plus. Know what I call guys shorter than 5 minutes and 11 seconds? Friends is a super common Tinder bio. Compulsory military service. Cousin had to do 2.5 years of it just because he was born male. He now has chronic knee pain because of it. Some countries have it for both genders. Some have it for neither. I'm a fan of neither, but it's incredibly sexist to have it only for men. Just the fact that you're intimidating, scary because you're bigger. There's no good way to show you're not a threat. Chubby 1.8 meters, 100 kg, 5'11", 225 lb, bearded teddy bear, here. I'll always remember one particular night when I was walking down the street and the only people on that street were walking a few dozen feet in front of me, a young woman and a drunk old dude following her and asking her for stuff. For the first time in my life I gathered the courage to, if you see something, say something, and told the guy, hey man, give her a break, would ya? They both stopped so I catched up, asked the lady is she way alright, and she just looked at me with a panic look, didn't say a word and started walking away, real fast. But I'm on your side. I was a bit heartbroken. Not being able to show emotion in the same way. My dad beat my ass whenever I cried, so I think it subconsciously deterred me from crying. Then 2 decades later, I cried during an episode of Futurama and figured I was cured. Figuring out if a woman is actually into you or is just being friendly. It's easy. Assume no woman likes you, because that's usually the case. The pressure of being perfect. You have to look good, smell good, be great at your job, be the rock, be the glue that holds shit together. And you aren't even able to have a breakdown and cry when it gets too much. Edit. I truly understand that women too can feel this way. However, this post is asking about men. Men do feel this way and they also have every right to. I would also struggle as a man that it seems when a man has an issue people jump to this doesn't just apply to men. This applies to women too. But that must be truly frustrating to have your problems downplayed and made out to not really be a problem because everyone can feel that way. This is why men cannot afford to show weakness. Women are merciless. Double quote. Brené Brown did a TED talk on shame. Google it and then go to 1530 in. Here is also a quote from her in a Red Book article on the subject. Men walk this tightrope where any sign of weakness elicits shame, and so they're afraid to make themselves vulnerable for fear of looking weak. But if you can't be vulnerable, then you can't truly grow and be your best self. Women can either embrace and help men walk across the tightrope, or we can be the ones who push them off. Just like Brené Brown states in her video for men, shame is not a bunch of competing, conflicting expectations. Shame is one, do not be perceived as what? Weak. I did not interview men for the first 4 years of my study. It wasn't until a man looked at me after a book signing and said, I love what say about shame, I'm curious why you didn't mention men. And I said, I don't study men. And he said, that's convenient. And I said, why? And he said, because you say to reach out, tell our story, be vulnerable. But you see those books you just signed for my wife and my 3 daughters? I said, yeah, they'd rather me die on top of my white horse than watch me fall down. When we reach out and be vulnerable, we get the shit beat out of us. And don't tell me it's from the guys and the coaches and the dads. Because the women in my life are harder on me than anyone else. So I started interviewing men and asking questions. And what I learned is this: you show me a woman who can actually sit with a man in real vulnerability and fear, I'll show you a woman who's done incredible work. Men are smart. They hear us asking for their vulnerability, but are also very aware that we may act scared or resentful when they show their vulnerable side. You wouldn't believe how often men tell me, I pretend to be vulnerable, but I keep him under control, or I give her enough to believe I'm being open because if I were totally truthful about how afraid or out of control I feel, she would judge me. Underneath the pretending lies hurt, disappointment, and shame. Unexpected bonus. It would be the hardest part, yes. Edit. My first ever silver. And it was thanks to a dick joke. Nice. Thank you, kind stranger. Feeling uncomfortable for showing emotions or crying when having a bad day. Having to hide a penis in general seems weird. It's not that bad, for the most part. All the clothes we wear are set up to accommodate it. Unless you mean you've got a bunch of illegal dicks that you're trying to hide from the cops. Being misunderstood because you have balls. I too was on the wave anti-manspreading once. But then I remembered the male anatomy, 2 years later, earlier this year. Thanks our memes. I find that ever since becoming a Reddit user I have understood the male specimen more than my crusty biology textbooks could have ever. Thank you to my all-girls school. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine what it's like to accidentally sit on your balls. I imagine it to be like stubbing your toe but worse. I just cringe thinking about it. Sweaty balls? Unsticking? Such a bizarre world beyond my understanding. I mean, sweaty boobs are one thing, but they're generally larger but easier to maneuver. Small flaps of skin that stick together? As two warm pieces of meat? In the sweaty humid summer? That you cannot adjust subtly? Pity. So much pity. Oh, and societal pressure to take initiative in literally everything. That is relationships, tasks, being the big man, the general lack of emotional support, dismissal of depression despite higher rates of suicide for men and women, being dismissed by extreme feminists for existing, hurtful generalizations, etc. That's pretty bad too. But I thought of the dingly dangly bits first. Edit. How did this get a gold? Even then, thank you, kind stranger. Real talk time. It isn't just about the balls. Manspreading happens because most public seating has been designed for people who are far shorter than today's average male height. You are much over 5'6" and you want to sit on public transport without it hurting your lower back. You're probably going to have to open your legs a bit to let your hips get into a comfortable position. The average male height in pretty much every English-speaking country is 5'9". The average female height is 5'3". Fewer than 10% of women are taller than 5'6", and most of them are significantly more flexible than their male counterparts. TLDR, statistically speaking, balls aren't the whole story. This is a contentious opinion, but even I'm, as a woman, disconcerted with the propaganda disseminated by the media that just denigrates every aspect of men. It's relentless attrition against men that began with the intention to elevate women, but it's succumbed to the propensity of human malice. You're too small and you have a Napoleon complex, so you're volatile and irascible. Oh, wait. You're too tall and you're so successful that you're impeding the rise of women in certain field. You're too ugly. You're too stoic. You're too aggressive. You're too vulnerable. Cry. Don't you dare fucking cry. We need to perpetuate the stigma. You're too impassive now. You're imposing on women. You're ignoring women. They've meticulously designed one sentence that is the ultimate calumny and execution of your reputation. You're a toxic male. Toxic has been ascribed the connotation of being irredeemable. If I'm condemned as a toxic woman, people assume I'm assertive or domineering. If I was castigated as a toxic man, I'd be oppressive and depraved. The press should be held accountable for its incendiary headlines that incite ill feelings between men and women. We can elevate both issues and disparities between the sexes without disparaging the other. Women do not endure the same wealth of censorious articles printed about them by prestigious publications like men do currently. For every article written or tweet propagating women empowerment, there are 5 denunciations of pretty benign aspects of masculinity that no woman in real life has any problem with. Having a penis in general. Like, how do you hold it? What do you do with it? I would constantly be afraid about somehow getting my balls kicked or hit. Being expected to suppress all emotions aside from anger.